Welcome to the February 17th, 2026 meeting of the Landing Commission of Westport. I'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks everybody for being here. We've got a fairly full agenda and two quick additional items to consider, so we'll try to move through this quickly. Item 2, head wall repair. Wendy is not here, so we will move along to number 3.
Okay.
In meeting with the new town administrator and the harbor master and Sean Leach from the beach committee about an increase in the fines for overnight parking and potentially whatever fines, it was brought to my attention that in the bylaws of the town, there's a different interpretation of the responsibilities of this commission than I've been aware of, or even though I know this has been told to me in the past, the past chairperson for decades felt like the responsibility of this commission was only for landings which had been deeded to the Landing Commission. The bylaws appear to say otherwise. I don't think we can necessarily decide this today, but I just want people to be thinking about it, and if you've had a chance to think about it already, get your impressions. I mean, this suggests that we are responsible for all town landings, whether they were deeded to us or not. And I know from past legal experience 30 years ago that potentially might even include historic landings which people don't consider as landings, like the way Howland Road, for example, ends up in the ocean. The state of Massachusetts at one point considered that a landing, that any right-of-way that ends in the water is a place where people can land.
They're all over town,
They are all over the town.
along the ponds, the
And-
river.
And it has
The
been of
ocean.
concern to me in the past, and I've pursued this in certain cases, where particularly in parts of town where they are not regularly used and the residents don't know that that's a public landing, that there has been trees planted in the middle of them, whatever. I mean, it can become a gnarly issue. But on the other hand, it is a public resource that is getting lost. And as real estate jumps further in value in this town, I expect that will potentially continue. So I think it's an issue the town, I feel like, should deal with. I've prompted people in the past to deal with it and be aware of it. Not much has happened. Thankfully, when the highway department has been doing their work and they occasionally see work happening in a road that ends in a pond or in the ocean, they typically call me and say, Jeff, what about that? And I said, well, my understanding is that's public and they can't do that. And he has typically on his own gone and sort of said, you know, move that shed back or whatever it is, you can't do that. But, and I know in the past, we've had lengthy and expensive legal battles, which we have won, when there's been incursion onto landings, which we have managed. So this is not a small task. But it would be nice if somebody was at least charged with the responsibility for it. And that's not necessarily the Landing Commission. I mean, we might all quit, you know, if we don't want to do this.
I was going to say, actually, I want to say probably 10 years ago or so, there was, the Landing Commission at that time was doing some research into some of these and all these other landings, where they were and so forth, and whatever happened to that research, that was like I say,
We
probably,
have that research.
you do?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was going to say, I want to say it was 10, 15 years ago that I know there was some work being done on it.
Right, and a lot of the landings that people think are public landings, because actually the Landing Commission, when I came on it, charged me with dealing with a problem up on one of the ponds. And as I looked into it, that was actually, even though it is a road that ends up in the pond, it's not a public road. So there's a lot of landings in town and that are shared amongst a group of neighbors. Where I live happens to be one of those. I mean, it's not actually a landing, but yeah, I guess it is. But where a piece of land has been developed into 4 to 30 house lots, and historically within that piece, when it used to be a 40-acre parcel, there was a road into the water. And so typically, if it happened when those lots were sold, access to that road was part of people's deeds. So there are a number of those. There's one actually on Cadman's Neck that was thought to be a landing commission landing, and in fact is not. It just belongs to the neighborhood. And there's another one on Cadman's Neck that was thought to be a landing commission landing, and again, it is not. It actually just belongs to the 2 abutters, and that's been heavily researched. So this is not a small task if someone chooses to take it on, although I don't think it's enormous. I don't think there's that many, but there may be more than I know.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Well, you just sort of look at all the roads that end in the water. But those are like public roads, not necessarily private. So I think it's something we need to think about. And, how that would occur, what our budget would be. The one that immediately pops to mind is what I'll call Hicks Bridge East, which is the typical Hicks Bridge landing where the boat ramp is, where we have pitched in just to help the select board, because my previous understanding was that that was a select board landing. And according to this, it is not. But there may be other things that I don't understand, because there was a whole thing, and I think Sean Leach was talking about it, but he was talking in language that I did not understand, about when there was money received from the state to fix the bridge, somehow some responsibility transferred to the select board. The reason I bring that up is that one of the items on our agenda is to be, and for item 3, is to be increasing some of the fines and the expenses. And I think this is something we can just make a recommendation to the select board, and something that the town administrator is researching, because the state of Massachusetts only allows you to increase fines so much, it turns out. So anyhow, so I think if we approve a motion today, it would be probably in the language of up to a certain amount. If we're shooting for $200, it would be up to $200, even though it might be that 4 tickets would be written for $50 each or something if the vehicle was there all day, or whatever. So lots to consider there. My sense is that there hasn't been a lot to do about the Hicks Bridge landing in the past, so that it hasn't been an active issue. I mean, you can maybe give us some input about that. Your time in the select board, how often does that come up as something the select board's dealt with?
Seldom.
Hmm?
Well, that's why at one of your meetings, we said we got to start to
Right.
educate the select board and their responsibilities,
Right.
and
And
brought that up one
And it may be something that they won't have the time to do, or it may be that this becomes part of what the Marine Services Director does, although he was in this meeting and he wasn't excited about that. He's got a pretty full plate and he's already taking on a lot. So, and in some ways, I think So, and even if it was that person, I think it's wise to have a citizen commission that advises that person, whether it be the select board or this group or something else.
What I do know on Hicksbridge is the the select board, I guess, was issuing the permits, parking permits, and they are ticketed there during the daytime. I don't know about nighttime, but the police do go through there when they're going to the beaches. They also swing by Hicksbridge and ticket there. I don't believe, like you just indicated, they might get a $50 ticket for within one day. They don't ticket, to my knowledge. If they pull through the parking lot at 8 o'clock in the morning, somebody's parked there without a beach parking permit, they don't pull back through in 3 hours and say, oh, they're still here, and give them a second ticket. They've got a ticket for the day. So I don't know how they would ever go about issuing anything more than one per day.
That is being discussed. There
And,
apparently is a way.
okay,
And there's, and the town is even looking into permitting based on your license plate.
yes,
There's a great technology where the police can just scan your license plate and it'll, beep once if you've got a beach permit and beep 5 times if you don't, and then that automatically prints the ticket.
yes.
So he
That's
doesn't even have
something
to
we've,
get out of the car.
well, they do. They have to get out of the car and put the ticket on the window.
There's that.
And,
There's that,
yes,
yeah.
but they don't have to, it saves a lot of time for them doing that. That is something, I've worked on that with the various departments on this also. And it's a far more efficient way. It also goes right into a system where they can immediately pay online. It's as soon as they get back, if they want to go online and they get their ticket, they can punch in their information and get it paid right away. Or it also gets followed through with a company to pursue what needs to be pursued if they don't pay.
Right. So I don't know how much we want to talk about this whole issue today, which is item, or whatever, number 1009 of the bylaws. It's something to be thought about. And certainly something that would end up being discussed at a select board meeting also. It's just, who's going to do this? And who has the budget to do this, too? I mean, currently, I'm not clear where the parking fines from the beach or the landing or Hicksbridge, where does that money go? Does that revert to the beach?
No, parking fines are a separate general fund account. The parking permits themselves that they issue go to the beach fund. Handicap parking is designated. If somebody parks in a handicap spot, that's a $300 fine, and that goes to a separate
That goes to the
designation.
that goes to the Disability Commission.
That goes to the, yes.
Yeah. So, lots to think about there. I know the beach, we had voted at our last meeting to increase the fine, our fines from what I thought were $5, but this apparently says $20, to $50 to match what the beach committee had as their fine for non-permitted parking. So that it could be just one little item on the police ticket for that. I have since that meeting discovered that the beach committee is now asking for $200 or $250 as a fine, that $50 is not enough. That they are having an issue with campers, because I guess it's $40 to camp at the state grounds, and Charing Webb is nicer, so $50 is sort of nothing to people. And he can't get them out at night because they're there overnight. So they're asking for up to $200 or $250. The town admin, I know in the past, when they tried to do that, a past chief of police felt unwilling to write tickets that big for some reason, which I don't understand. Well, I just don't have information about. maybe that he thought people would be unwilling to write those tickets, but times seem to be changing.
Yeah.
I was going to say $50
That's
isn't,
your job, you just do it.
but $50 isn't a deterrent anyway. It's amazing how many people will say, okay, take a car full of people, go to the beach, and they even write on their check in the little memo line, thank you for the day at the beach.
Right.
You know, things like that. It's not a deterrent, $50 is not a deterrent if they want to go spend the day at the beach.
Certainly not.
I know I was clear about my feeling at, again, this meeting with folks last week, that if it did jump to 200 or 250, that I felt there really ought to be signage that tells people that, so that it's clear, because I think otherwise there certainly could be vandalism and signs could disappear or whatever. So I think signage would be important, but we have the ability to print signs, so. So, hearing that, and I think it would be a good idea to consider this issue separate from all these other infractions that we have.
I would make a motion that we allow to increase our fees consistent with what the beach committee proposes for a fee. I believe it has to be done at town meeting anyway. Or is it done through
Apparently
the,
not. No, the select board just,
Yeah,
the fees are through the select board, so consistent with what, so in other words, if you're parking at the landing, whatever the beach committee finds is a legal fee that they're going to use, it should be consistent for the landing parking also.
would you like to say something like, oh, I'm sorry, that's a motion, so before we discuss that. So, is there a second?
Oh, I'll second that.
Okay, so your thought is to make it just consistent with theirs, whether that be 200 or 250 or whatever?
Yes, being that if it's consistent everywhere, and if doesn't tie us into any particular number, it doesn't limit us to 200 if they go to 250, and legally, if they find they can only go to 100 this year,
Yeah.
it's 100.
Okay, right, and so this would
Makes all
be,
the sense in the
again,
world.
for Hicksbridge West, or Hicksbridge
It's
East.
east. Yeah,
Yes,
Hicksbridge, that's the only one that has parking, ticketed parking,
right,
permitted ticketed
the
parking.
moment, right.
What are we going to do about the point parking then?
That's another item on the agenda.
Okay.
That's-
And I have one other question. Would the State Waterways Commission have information on what's town property and town landings as opposed to private, being as, when you do anything to a property, you have, the waterways, you have to give notice to the Waterways Commission at the state level,
I would say that that's a separate issue, but just to answer that quickly, my understanding is that a large number of properties in Westport never went to the State Waterways Commission for a Chapter 91 license.
True, they
So
didn't.
that they would not be a good source of information. I think it's pretty easy. You look at a map or, or an aerial photograph and like, okay, there's a road into the water. There's a, that becomes clear and you can determine whether it's a public road or not. So, but that's all to be figured out as this larger issue. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Just clarification, the motion is relative to Hicksbridge East only, is that?
No,
East and west.
East and west, okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment, if I may, even though I'm not a voting member here. Are there any issues here with disabled people on this increasing of the fines? I know they're sensitive to that.
I am not exactly clear about and I ought to be, but I'm not at the moment. I know that if somebody from out of town without a beach permit parks, who has a disabled plate, parks at the disabled space at Sherry and Webb, I'm not clear what the deal is there.
I think they have the right to do that.
I don't know.
I'm uncertain. I believe if they don't, the fee currently is $50 for non-permitted and $300 for parking in the disabled without
A plate.
a plate, handicap placard. So if somebody's parked in the handicap spot, they do not have a handicap placard and they do not have a sticker, they write them 2 tickets, one for $300 for parking and handicap and one for $50 for parking without a sticker.
And if they are handicapped, have a placard, don't have a beach sticker,
I'm uncertain whether they give them I believe they get a
$50.
$50, currently $50, no beach pass.
Yeah, I don't actually know the answer, but this was discussed at the last meeting of the Commission on Disabilities. And it was stated clearly that if they don't have a Westport sticker, it's irrelevant if they're a handicapped person with the, properly designated. It's a
If they
state
were in
law,
a
it
handicap,
supersedes,
if they were in a handicapped spot,
yeah.
okay? And actually, I am meeting potentially tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock with the chief of police, the town administrator, about a lot of these issues, so.
Okay, so if you can cover that with him,
Yep.
he would know the answer.
Yep.
There's a peripheral issue too, where the handicap spots are either just filled with other handicapped people or people who do not have a handicap plate. Then the handicapped person, whether they're from here or elsewhere, has to park someplace else. That's an issue. And there, the solution there would simply be an appeal process that could take that
Yeah,
into consideration. I just raised that as
yeah.
issues.
My
that might
guess, from a practical standpoint of view, that probably doesn't happen too often.
No, it doesn't.
Because Cherry and Webb is so inaccessible to most
Yeah.
handicaps, because you have to climb the mountain to get there. And so we'll just have to find out about that. And there currently isn't, even at Hicksbridge West, there isn't even designated handicap parking.
Yeah.
There is no signage.
Remember that a lot of handicapped people
I
are
mean,
very
Hicksbridge East.
mobile. It could be other issues.
Yep.
Right.
Yep, I'm aware of that. So anyhow, all in favor of the motion to increase the fine to match the increase of the beach committee fine for overnight or parking without a permit?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, all these other fines that are in here that have never been enforced in the time I've been on the commission. But apparently, back in 1848, there was a reason to have them here. And it seems like that some of these things could be interpreted and certainly could come up again. Do we want to just, my sense is at $20, a ticket won't be written because there's no place for the police to write the ticket. So it occurs to me administratively that to raise this, all of these to the same amount. And because the town administrator was concerned about, what about all these other ones?
Oh, what other ones would that be, Matt?
Everything underlined in red.
Oh, okay. All of them. Other ones in the bylaw, that is, yeah.
Yes.
I wouldn't necessarily say they're all should be the same. They're for very significantly very, I mean, at the time, they went with $20 straight across the board, but I don't know as if everything should be the same as the 20, whatever the 200 or whatever the figure ends up being for the parking. I think they should be reviewed individually and looked at whether it's something that, I mean, if any person shall carry any soil, sods, or stones from said landings. I believe the beach committee has one pertaining to that.
Right. Yep, about Yeah, because people were taking truckloads of rocks from East Beach.
rocks and rockweed and this and that and all kinds of things. So I think we need to kind of research
Spend some
these.
time with this.
Spend some time with it and research them similar to other things in town.
Right, because like 1018 is basically littering,
Right,
although it's littering with, you can, leaving a truck there even, or rubbish. So, but I think actually the fine for littering these days is pretty high too, but. All right, so we should just table the rest of these for the moment? Fine with me. The other thing that I think it would be wise to advise the select board, and this is probably not our decision, but would be, and it may be too late for this year, is what should be, I know the beach committee is considering raising the amount for a beach sticker. So there's an issue of potentially raising the amount for a Hicksbridge sticker. I believe it's $30 currently, and that there's no discount for being elderly.
oh, for the Hicks Bridge?
Correct. So and I know the fee for town residents at the state boat ramp is jumping dramatically from like $40 to $75 or something.
Yeah, it was pretty recent.
So I think it would be, my sense is it's better to keep raising it a little bit every year or something every year, rather than wait and then be behind and suddenly have to be a big jump. So it seems to me that it could either, I don't know if it should really match the beach, but it could certainly go to 40, I would think, but I can't make that motion because I'm the chair.
For Hicksbridge?
Yeah. I know when it was looked at what the total revenue was, and then by a past harbor master, and looked at kind of what the related expenses were of fixing the pilings, which is going to be a big deal with the ice pulling them out this year.
Yeah.
It was nowhere close to covering the cost of maintaining that landing if you actually, but basically nobody's ever really delineated those costs for the landing.
I think you're right, we should increase it. It's just a sign of the times anyway, so if we were to increase it, it's 30 now, increase it to 40 for this year and revisit it again next year if we need to.
Yeah. And
Make that as a motion.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
And I'm not clear if people have already bought permits at 30, we don't go back after
No.
them, but I don't know if that works, that you can increase it mid-permit, I would think so.
Aren't they, beach permits are needed year-round, aren't, I believe Hicks Bridge is needed year-round.
I think they're needed, but they're typically not enforced.
Yeah, somewhat. I know a few people have gotten ticketed off-season.
Yep.
So they aren't as enforced as they are in the summertime. So, I mean, it doesn't, whereas they are a year-round permit that's required, I don't think it really matters when you go up. It's when the fee is increased. If you got it ahead of time, well,
So
get
it has
it.
been moved, was it seconded?
I seconded something.
Is there any further discussion?
Anything she says, I second.
So we are going to, recommend to the Board of Selectmen that that permit fee be raised to $40?
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. That's item 4, that's to 40. And we've done number 5, the overnight parking fine at Emma Trip, Adamsville, and the Head Landing. Number 6 is about the float bumpers, just getting an update from Wendy Henderson. She's not here. Is there anybody else with further information about float bumpers? Okay?
No.
Number 7 just wanted to remind the townspeople that spring elections for town officials are coming up, and hope you get out there and vote and learn about the candidates. There actually, I think, is going to be a candidate for the Landing Commission. Sean. Item 8. I don't have anything for people to provide you, but I will probably be emailing you the history of what the rents have been, or the various properties that we rent, so that at our next meeting, we can consider a rent increase and sign some leases to that effect, so we don't get behind as I've oftentimes been. So you can expect to see that in your email.
Sounds good.
Mr. Chair, how many properties do you rent, or do you own that you can rent?
We rent to the watershed, the property underneath the watershed building, which we actually have pretty much no control over because the select board didn't like our recommendation, because that's an unusual lease. Most of our leases are restricted by law to 5 years. But there was, for them to spend that much money fixing that building, they needed a longer lease in order to get financing. And we had a difference of opinion about the value of the property than the select board does. So that's just sits at the amount it's at for another 20 years or 15 years or so. And then it'll be up to who's ever in charge at that point to reconsider what that amount should be. So we have that, there is that one, and then the typically called the kayak shop, which is next to the select board. We rent that. And then the property that abuts Hicksbridge West, there's a home and a garage on that property, and we own that land. So it's
Not the
actually-
building? Not the building?
Right, just the land.
Hmm.
So they are a tenant.
In all three cases, we own the land, not the buildings. The individuals are responsible for the buildings.
Mhm.
So you'll be seeing that in your emails sometime soon. I was unclear. Our next item is past minutes approval. I was unclear which of these we've actually approved at various meetings, because that wasn't delineated. So if you could look at these last three that I've provided, do you need to look at them again?
I only had two.
Oh, you don't have the most recent one?
Okay.
I thought we'd approved all of
I want to
these.
say one was September, November, and
January.
that one I didn't have.
January. Thanks. Damn wheels.
Going on?
It's dangerous.
At home, that was fun, huh?
Be careful, gotta be careful around here.
Nice trip.
You have the January ones?
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought we'd,
No, we haven't approved these.
huh,
Oh, the January ones we did not, because we didn't have them last time.
Right. And it's unclear whether we've done them, so I'd just like to have people look at them quickly, and if anything needs to be changed for any of them, sing out, and if not, if we could just approve them as a group, that would be great.
we're approving them. I talked to you. You're good at this.
I'm good at this. Let's see.
Can we do them all at once, or do we have to do them each individually?
If we're not correcting anything, we can just do them all at
We're
once.
going to approve them.
And, you know, it's good.
There's no way to challenge.
I make a motion, we accept the 3 sets of meetings, minutes from the meetings in September, November, and January.
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Other business not anticipated at the time of posting. Mud season is rapidly approaching. We only have one sample. Throw it back. Nice. So we need to put a chain across the entrance to Hicksbridge West during mud season with a sign that says, closed for mud season, so that people won't drive in there now and kind of destroy it. So we can either use yellow plastic chain, or we can use much heavier, much more expensive metal chain that's yellow coated. My sense is that there probably won't actually be a lock on it. It'll be just a little thing that's not easy to undo, because locks seem to disappear. I believe that it's just lightweight plastic chain that's been used to chain off the entrance to the Baker's Beach Club for over a year. When they're not there, I'm going to be checking with him about whether plastic has worked out. It seems to me that plastic might be adequate, and if anything has less value, so assuming that someone's not looking for chain to take home, they're less likely to take the plastic. And if it does disappear, we could just go get another one. But I'm open to hearing about metal also. Certainly, it's more imposing.
I think I would recommend using the plastic, and if it doesn't work out, we can always switch over to the metal.
Any other thoughts?
I like the fact that it's bright yellow, so hopefully
Yeah.
people will see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and the metal would be yellow
Oh.
also, although it's not quite as bright as that, so. Do we need a motion for yellow chain?
I make a motion that we try the yellow chain, the plastic chain, and see what happens, and then
Up to amount of $50.
up to an amount of $50 for, what, 20 feet of chain?
It's more than that, but whatever it is, it'll be less than that.
Second.
Oh, I'll second,
Go ahead.
I'll second that one too.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Yellow plastic chain it'll be. The last item that has suddenly come up is about parking at the point again.
Oh,
Oh, boy.
oh boy.
It has been proposed, and I believe, again, to just kind of go back for a moment to the issue of overnight parking that we had recommending at $200, we may need to amend that motion because that was not to include the point. That was only for Emma Tripp, Hicksbridge, both Hicksbridges and Adamsville. Although it turns out people are camping at Adamsville Landing, surprisingly. But that motion, and again, maybe do we need to review this, was that fine would not include overnight parking at the point, because the point is primarily, that parking was deeded originally for commercial fishermen who go out for 2 to 3 days at a time. And while they have some parking on the main wharf next to where their boat is moored, the historical expectation has been that they can park in the lot also.
Could they
So-
get a special permit for that, the individuals? Because
That
there
has-
aren't many nowadays that.
Yeah, that
I was-
hasn't, that, those.
Yeah, that's changed significantly from what it was. There used to be a lot of offshore boats with 4 or 5 guys on the boat.
There's still 2 or 3 apparently. But-
Yes.
So anyhow, that motion about that, I think we might need to amend, just to be clear, that, because there was great resistance when I raised the issue about how do we determine who's a fisherman, who's not a fisherman, et cetera. So I think it'll be difficult for the select board to go ahead with that kind of fine if we included the point, and the point is going to be somehow dealt with on this next item that's coming up.
I think that it's going to be hard. It was granted partially my understanding is the grant of where they did the landing was partially for the commercial fishermen, that it's hard to take that away from them. We'd have to figure out something if we were to exclude them, whether they get a permit, whether it's something the harbor master can designate who's on the, would get a list from each person who's on these overnight boats, and, they could get a overnight permit or something. I don't know what, but I think we'd need to review that, find a way around that first before increasing that fine
Right. And
or implementing it.
so we do need to kind of get that previous motion clear so that we can get something on the town warrant.
Right.
My sense is to omit the point from this for now. I mean, I had suggested that each fishing boat would get 3 parking permits, and they would just,
Well, they hardly
depending
need that, but
depending
Yeah.
who was
the
working.
only problem is, there aren't many boats that go out overnight anymore. But they probably have different individuals. It's not always the same person
Well-
that's going out in that boat.
But it would be a piece of cardstock that could
Right.
be moved from truck to truck.
Exactly, and
So-
I think that's a simple
But working
solution.
out that detail at this point, I think, is beyond the administrative capabilities of this town. I know that sounds simple, but believe me,
Meanwhile, we do have a lot of people that park their cars overnight there for a variety of
right,
reasons.
so there was pushback about that. So
Yeah,
I think that could come up as a separate item, and there'll be more news in a moment about that, but do we need to go back and correct that motion?
I thought when you said it, that you did not mention the point on the overnight. I thought you just said Emma Tripp, Head, Adamsville, and
Is that reflected in the minutes?
East and
Or
Hicks
could
Bridge.
you reflect that in the minutes?
Yeah, I had Hicksbridge East and West, and I just noted Adamsville and Emma Tripp,
Thank you.
so that
All
might
right.
take
Did-
care of that.
Yeah, didn't it include the Head
And the head,
And the Head.
yeah,
So it did not include the point anyway, so,
yep. And it's unclear, what's tricky about this is that certainly if someone was parked behind the watershed building, that would be overnight parking. If someone's parked along Drift Road, it's not clear that that's overnight parking, even though someone regularly did that all last summer, and for a while had a tent in the middle during the evening hours, so. Well, there's a lot of van campers now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they park on the point
Yep.
overnight. There's a guy that comes down every weekend.
Yep. So, great. So anyhow, this last item is that it's been proposed that somewhere in town, and I won't know until tomorrow, but I think they're talking about the point, that that the town has already entered into an agreement with an automated system for collecting revenue regarding moorings, and that it would be easy for people with their phones to purchase parking for an hour or half hour or whatever by scanning one of those squiggly squares at the point. And I think that's what's being talked about tomorrow at 10. I think, but maybe they're thinking about using it elsewhere in town too. That's at the beginning stages.
it's, may or may not be that company, put it that way.
Right, so that technology does exist. I know the town of Tiverton uses it for day parking at their beaches if you don't have a beach sticker. It seems to work for them. A lot of people and cities use it all over the place. So it's really, at this meeting, only appropriate, and we don't absolutely need to decide tonight, but what do we think about potentially using it for just the triangle that we're responsible for, which basically is the property that runs parallel to the Paquatuck and the property that runs north-south, the parking places that run north-south, that abut the Haynes property.
If we can find a system that will work effectively for down, they're looking at it for the state boat ramp. And I think it would be a good idea, potentially, to put something down there. I don't know. I think we also need to look into what that landing was designated for certain purposes. Again, it's kind of crazy because we talked about the overnight parking, and what about somebody who's going fishing, commercial, fishing for the day? It's there for fishing purposes. So somebody goes down and parks their car there because they want to go fishing, and we're charging them for parking. Is that something that we can do, or did we get into a violation against what the landing was originally created for? It was for
But it was for
public use.
commercial fishing. That's
Well,
what was specifically written in the Almy.
That, like I say, I'd want to make sure it's only commercial fishing. There are a lot of, and what does that extend to? How exact does that, because there are a lot of people out there who, you can buy a shellfish permit, and it can be a commercial license. You don't have to be on a huge boat to get a commercial shellfish permit.
Right, so does it
That's right.
include somebody who's selling a bucket of clams?
Exactly.
So, and I know that's part of the discussion. I would be stunned and certainly wouldn't approve anything tomorrow without coming back to this commission. The details of this are gonna be something to be figured out, because there's also the issue of somebody who lives further up the road that has a bunch of house guests and needs parking, and somebody wants to park there overnight. What hours would it, when it would be, would it be seasonal? But as I've been looking into this at other landings and other beaches, most towns only approve beach permits, for example, for like April through October, even on the Cape. And so anybody can go sort of in the winter months. So there would be a lot of details to figure out about this pay by hour or whatever it is, either at the landing or anywhere else.
And
Would have to be sort of thought through. And you live there, you've been there
Yeah, I can
forever.
tell you. This is,
So,
it's got,
it-
and and I have a
complicated.
business, and I still think that it should be monitored. I don't, if I'm required, and I am, to have parking spaces for all my guests, at least in the summertime, yeah.
Yeah, it's complicated, so,
But it should happen, my guests should stay on my property. But other people's, the same thing, it goes for everyone, not just me.
so as someone who actually lives there, I'm actually not even clear how you could vote on this, even though you have disclosed your,
Yeah.
that you have a vested interest in this, but you've also disclosed that, and that's clear because people do, that's part of representative democracy. But your experience there, you think it would be helpful to be charging people per hour or per day or whatever, to be in the details to be figured out?
Well, we can't meter it, can we? We could-
Oh, yeah,
Well, maybe we should think of something like that.
yeah, oh, yeah, you can meter it. That it does mean that, and again, I think it's pretty automated, that, you go and you scan the thing and you enter your plate, and it's however long you're gonna be there, whether it's for an hour or whatever, and then whoever enforces it somehow looks at his computer screen and it says, nope, he's out of time, ticket. And I would certainly, it's hard to imagine that would be a $200 fine, but I don't know. I can't imagine that would be, but, so there's a lot of details, but in general, you think something bears investigation, would you
I
say?
absolutely think so. Well, we've got a nightmare parking issue right now.
Okay,
It's something I think that deserves, we need to check into. I don't think there's a lot of different factors than what they're looking at for the boat ramp. The boat ramp, they're looking at it 24/7, because they're, like Bill said at one of the meetings that I was in with him, he said, somebody will go down there at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to head out because they want to be ready to fish,
Right.
crack of dawn and so forth. And so they're looking at a different type of scenario than what we are actually looking at for down on the landing. So it's going to take a bit of, I think, a little more investigation
Right.
Oh, yeah.
and so forth.
That's absolutely true. Boats
Yes.
leave at 4.
Huh?
The boats leave at 4. They
Four.
still
Oh,
do.
yes, I know.
Yes, you do.
so you
I
think
remember
it's
from years ago.
worth looking into?
I think it's worth looking into. I mean, definitely worth looking into. I don't know how quickly we can come up with
The details?
all the details because of the unusual circumstances of commercial fishermen being allowed without, probably shouldn't be charging them. And it goes beyond just those few overnight boats that are parked down there at the dock and things of that nature. So how do we look at, like I say, there's a lot more details to this one. But yeah, if we were to figure out something, then, yeah, definitely something that needs to be explored.
Do we need a motion to that extent?
I think doing the research doesn't really take a motion. It's when we go to implement,
But
we'll
in
need a
general, I
motion.
can report that this commission cares and thinks that it's worth looking into.
Mhm.
Good. That's all I have.
Date for next meeting?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that one.
that's it. Round them up.
Number 11. Mhm. So today is the... So how about March 17th? I think we should try to meet in a month just because we've got these leases coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Does that work for people?
Yeah, I think it's good.
Oops, what do I got that day? Nothing.
And I am,
Jeff, when you are talking about recommendations relative to the point parking, who are you talking about recommending to?
town administrator.
Okay.
It's something that's going to take, some effort. I mean, I'm involved with this parking thing up to my eyeballs, unfortunately. I know. As treasurer.
Yeah, but the reason I was included in those emails, I thought, was because he potentially wanted to extend that to,
Yeah, I assume that's to Hicks Bridge, I mean, the parking tickets, we're looking at a couple of different things, been exploring a couple of different options
okay, well,
Yeah,
as far as the ticketing goes and as far as this other option of daily parking.
right.
we don't even have delineated parking spaces in most of these. I mean, we do on the landing itself, but up Main Road, there's no delineated parking spaces. People just park.
Yep.
Mm.
All right, well, thank you all.
They park in the street.
Just a reminder, tonight is Mardi Gras night, right?
It's Tuesday, that's right,
A
okay.
good time out there in Disney
Some
Land.
people are fasting early because they have to.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Out of here.